Noon. I'm here. I'm live. Let's see. Yep. I know it's been about a month, approximately. Maybe longer. I'm trying to think. When was my last stream? Don't remember exactly. Not that one. I don't remember when exactly my last stream was because it's been so long, for one reason or another. Yeah, a month ago. I see it right here. Episode 12. Jeez, I can't believe it's been a month. And I believe it's been a month. But thank you for joining me, whoever's here. Let's see. What am I looking at here? Thank you for joining me on this great afternoon. And we'll be talking about a bunch of mostly Trump in the town hall from last week and a bunch of other stuff to fill some time. Because I haven't really had much time to try to figure this out, but we'll just roll with the punches. How is everyone doing in this beautiful afternoon? It's actually beautiful here, at least. So it's sunny. It's quite hot. 73 degrees. And we're going to give it a few minutes for everybody, a couple of minutes to get everyone on here, who, of course, is going to be on here. And then we'll get started. What was I going to do? I don't really need that right now. I don't really need that. Okay, here we go. Yay. Still trying to get myself together here, so. So we got a couple viewers, so let me make sure everyone knows I'm live. Where's my phone at? Jesus Christ, it's like I forgot how to do this properly. It's like I really forgot how to do this. It's been a month. It's been that goddamn long that I completely forgot what I'm doing. I completely forgot to let everyone know I'm live. So that's really brilliant, huh? How are they supposed to know? Let's see. I'm live. Oops. Fucking autocorrect. Come and scared the shit out of me. Come and join me at these below. Of course, fucking spell check. Look at that more. It's gonna drive me crazy. Alright, there you go. Jesus Christ. Like, there are times where it just drives me crazy. All of this technology just drives me crazy. Oops, there we go. I sound like an old man complaining about technology, but it's the truth. It all just drives me crazy. By the way, I do have a Substack that I've been writing at. I've written a couple pieces, but it isn't like I'm gonna write some more pieces in the coming days and weeks. So if you're unsubscribed to that, make sure you are. In fact, I may just put it. I'm going to put it in the chat because that way I don't remember if I actually put it in my link tree or not. Because I have a terrible memory, and since my ADD is acting up right now, so I really don't goddamn remember anything. Or very little. Oops. God damn it. So, yeah, make sure you subscribe to that or follow. I don't know whether subscribe or follow to Substack. It's confusing. I think it's subscribe. I'm pretty sure it is. So, in fact, I can show you real quick before we get to what we're actually going to talk about. It's like I forgot how to do this. I mean, it's. Here we go. So that's my Substack. Let's click on that. My goddamn internet's so slow, it's just ridiculous. So that's my Substack. And I wrote a couple pieces so far, and I'm going to write some more in the coming weeks. So if you haven't subscribed to that, I don't know why I left that there. Please do, and I check out my couple articles, pieces, whatever you want to call them. Because the one thing I don't want to be confused for is a journalist, because I am not that. So I'm just going to call them opinion pieces or like written essays. I don't know what to call them, but they're there. The link to my Substack's in the chat if you haven't seen it already. So if you're going to subscribe, make sure you subscribe to that. Thank you in advance for that. Let's see. Why am I confused again? Oh, here we go. No. Okay. So, looks like we can get started now. Because I don't have anything else to talk about. What? Do I have to plug other things? I'm trying to think. If I have to plug them, I'll plug them later. Because right now I can't remember and I have no memory whatsoever. I forget shit really, really easily. So let's just get to this. Let's get what. Oops. If I remember how to do this, maybe I wouldn't embarrass myself right now. So there's a few clips from the town hall I want to react to. So this won't take me long at all. About 3 clips for sure to react to. And I just find it absolutely just hilarious on how these reporters, or this one in particular, thinks she can own Donald Trump. And meanwhile, he's the one running circles around her and embarrassing herself. But most of corporate media acted like she did a great job. Like, oh my God, she was so great. It's so hard to try to debunk the former president's lies. She did such a great job at it. I'm like, dude, it's like seriously, it's a town hall. It's not her place to be correcting every single little alleged lie that Trump tells. That's not her business. Like that's it. The discussion between Trump and the audience. Her job is to basically moderate it, and maybe ask a follow up question here and there. Her job is not to be fucking correcting every little solitary alleged lie from Trump. I mean, it basically became a debate between her and Trump. I mean, that's not what a town hall is supposed to be. But of course, she had to interject because ultimately, that's her job, right? To let her ego get in the way and interject. Any, anyways, this first clip is Trump was asked if he owes an apology for January 6th. He owes Pence an apology for January 6th. Hear his response. Well, let's hear his response because
One person who was at the Capitol that day, as you know, was your vice president, Mike Pence, who says that you endangered his life on that day.
I don't think he was in any danger.
Mr. President, do you feel that you owe him an apology?
No, because he did something wrong. He should have put the votes back to the state legislatures, and I think we would have had a different outcome. I really do.
But he doesn't have the authority to do that, as you know.
What?
See, there it is right there. He doesn't have the authority to do that. That's okay. That's not really your place to say that there. It's like, he doesn't have the authority to do that. You know that, right? It's like, that's not really her place there. She just keep her mouth shut. And because ultimately the conversation between Trump and the audience, it's not her place to go in there to butt in. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, Pence wasn't allowed to do that. And it's like, that's just absurd.
What?
The vice president does not have the authority to reject
Are you ready?
those
Let's have this
election
one.
Okay.
Let's keep it interesting, right? I like Mike Pence very much. He's a very fine man. He's a very nice man. He made a mistake. His lawyer said, you cannot move. I called him the human conveyor belt. I said, even if the votes, I talked to his lawyer, even if the votes are absolutely fraudulent, he can't say, yes, sir, he can't send back. And the Democrats played it, and the rhinos played it. And then the election was over. They told him he couldn't do it. And Mike said to me, I can't do it. The lawyers told me I can't do it. They can't do it. But the lawyers were wrong, because right after...
The lawyers were wrong. They were wrong because the lawyers were wrong. It's like, I love Trump's cadence. Like, just say, the lawyers were wrong,
The election, they all met, the rhinos and the Democrats, and they worked out a plan to make sure that future vice presidents don't do what I said you could do.
That's not what happened. You're referring to the Electoral Count Act. I've read that. There is no authority.
No,
legal experts, including Republican legal experts, say that he does not have that authority, Mr. President. But I want to
why
move
did
on.
they change the law then, saying that you can't do it?
They didn't change the law. They strengthened the law because they were worried about presidents exploiting.
Meaning you could do it.
That's not what it means.
Thank you.
Got her. Look, this is it. Can the vice president actually do that? No, but at the same time, Trump's circular logic, like, it makes sense in his mind, at least, in the audience mind, is like, oh, well, that means you could have done it then because they had to strengthen the law. So by definition, that means they could have done it. You see, even though she's technically right, it seems like he owned her, and she looked terrible there, even though she's the one technically correct there.
They strengthened the law.
Mike had the right to do it. They convinced him he didn't, and it was a horrible thing for our country. If you would have sent those votes back to Georgia, Pennsylvania, and other states, Wisconsin, which if you look at Wisconsin, they virtually admitted now that the election was rigged. If you would have sent those votes back to many of those states, they would not come back in the affirmative. And remember what I said, and you just said it pretty much. You admitted what I said was right. So he didn't have the right to do it. And he did have the right to do it, and that's why they changed the law, taking that right away.
I should note that your campaign paid for a recount that happened in Wisconsin. It actually had more votes for President Biden by the end of it.
Trump just bullied his way through that. He's like whatever. Now let me continue with my points because I'm right. That's basically... All right, the second one really pisses me off. This is the Russia-Ukraine one where the reporter, I forget her name right now, I don't think it really matters too much, basically asked him over and over again, do you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war? Like, I'm supposed to give a shit about that. Nobody gives a shit with who wins the war. So I don't give a shit. In fact, I want this goddamn war to end. But that's just me, Let's second clip here.
I want to get to another...
Immigration and border security. That wasn't that important. But let's do that. Let's do this.
Okay. I want to get to another voter. Caitlin Boissonneau is a student here at St. Anselm College. She's a Republican. This will be the first election that she has voted in. What's your question for the president, Caitlin?
Hello, President Trump.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
The current administration has made it clear that we should continue to provide military equipment to Ukraine so that they can defend themselves. Do you support this decision, and how would you deal with the increasing threat posed by Vladimir Putin?
First of all, thank you very much. It's really nice. And it's an important question, so important. because we're giving away so much equipment. We don't have ammunition for ourselves right now. We don't have ammunition for ourselves. We're giving away so much. But here's the thing.
It's so ridiculously over the top. It's like we've given away so much ammunition that we don't have any ammunition for ourselves. Really. The United States military has no ammo. How many people we've killed and how many people we shoot every day, we somehow have no ammunition. Well, to be fair, back in I think 2014 and 2015, the Obama administration ran out of bombs. They dropped so many bombs they literally ran out. So it's possible to run out of ammunition, but very unlikely. You have to be so over ridiculous. Oh, let me try that again. So ridiculously over the top that you run out of bombs. I mean, that's beyond ridiculous.
The thing. I have to say it to start off, no longer matters. If I were president, this would have never happened. And even the Democrats admit that. Putin knew it would have never happened. And his pipeline would have never happened. A lot of things would have never happened. But this would never have happened. And all those dead people, both Russian and Ukrainian, they wouldn't be dead today. And all those cities that are blown up and disintegrated right to the ground, that wouldn't have happened. Okay, now, here's the problem. We've given so far $171 billion. They've given, meaning European Union, which is approximately the same size altogether as our economy. They've given about 20. So we're at 170, let's say, and they're at 20. You don't have to know too much about history to realize, or geography, to realize that they're a little bit more affected than we are, okay? So they've got
Well, he's not wrong there. Europe is a lot more affected by this war than we are. So, again, Trump isn't wrong there. I mean, that doesn't mean the Europeans should give more money towards this waste of time war, but he isn't wrong on that point. Europe is much more affected than we are by this war. Unless Russia or decides to drop a nuclear bomb, then we'll all be affected. But hopefully that won't happen, because that's why I want this war to end as soon as possible.
got to put up a lot more money because they're taking advantage of us like every other country did. That's why I ended NAFTA.
That's a good point. Ask Uvalde, Texas police for bullets. They never use them. That's a devastating point right there. I like that point. Thank you for the chat.
And replace it with the USMCA in Mexico,
But on
Canada.
this issue, Mr. President, I should know, I don't know any Democrats who have said they don't believe Putin would have invaded if you were president. But her question is, would you continue to give Ukraine money and weapons if you're elected? What's the answer?
I have a very good relationship with President Zelensky because, as you know, he backed me up with the phony impeachment hoax number one, when he said the president didn't do anything wrong. So
That
I
was when
happen
you
to
asked him
like.
for an
So I
investigation.
happen to like. Yeah, that's right. And I was totally exonerated, by the way. Just a waste of time and money.
You were impeached over that. You were impeached over that. But let's stay on topic here, Mr. President, because the question is, what
Wait. I forget it. I'm going to continue.
I was impeached by a crazy woman named Nancy
But the
Pelosi.
question is, would you give Ukraine weapons?
The crazy woman, Nancy Pelosi. I was impeached by her. Yeah. Yeah, it would be a win-win to have peace, but the U.S. doesn't want fucking peace. They want to continue this war because the defense contractors make money, and it also allegedly weakens Russia, even though there's no evidence that Russia is actually weakened by this war. But nonetheless, the U.S. thinks, we're the world's police, so we have the right to go in and invade any countries or give money to certain countries, not to other countries. And by the way, there's no money for Americans, by the way. All the money goes to foreign nations, foreign wars, and the deaths, innocence of hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people every year, or genocides, or whatever, or we give money to literal Nazis in Ukraine. But nonetheless, there's no money at home. There's no money for social programs. There's no money for schools. There's no money for anything because we send it all in foreign wars. That's why. And in fact, we use fucking credit card. We used to what's a credit card and put off the debt for later because we have to fund our war machine.
Weapons and funding if
There
you
we
were
go.
I would sit down. Let me just put it a nicer way. If I'm president, I will have that war settled in one day, 24 hours.
How would you settle that war in one day?
Because I'll meet with Putin, I'll meet with Zelensky. They both have weaknesses and they both have strengths. And within 24 hours, that war will be settled. It'll be over. It'll be absolutely
Do you
over.
want Ukraine to win this war?
That's the first time she asked that question.
I don't think in terms of winning and losing. I think in terms of getting it settled so we stop killing all these people and breaking down this country. Now,
What do you? Can I just follow up on that? You said you don't think in terms of winning and losing. Mr. President, can I just follow up on that because that's a really important
Excuse me,
statement
let me
that
just
you just
follow
made
up.
there. Can you say if you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war?
She was up to she kept interrupting him. She kept trying to barge in and continue to the conversation. I mean, Trump did say at one point she was a nasty person, which she was. It's like she was definitely nasty to him. She was definitely confrontational when she had no place to do so. That was not her place. Her place is being a moderator. The conversation between Trump and the audience. Instead it ended up being her ego versus Trump, a debate between her and Trump. And I don't know what the audience really learned. Anyway, to be fair, Trump talks out of both sides of his mouth, so who knows what you actually learn when you hear him speak. But still, I mean, it's ridiculous how it's such a childish question as said in the chat. Excuse me.
I want everybody to stop dying. They're
They're dying.
dying. Russians and Ukrainians. I want them to stop dying. And I'll have that done. I'll have that done in 24 hours. I'll have it done. You need the power of the presidency to do it.
But you won't say that you want Ukraine to win.
You know
All
what?
right, now that's the third time she's asked that question. She's begging him for an answer. He won't answer.
I'll say
when you were in
this.
office.
I want Europe to put up more money because they're in for 20 billion. We're in for 170, and
that's
they
not
should
an
be.
answer about who
And
should
they
win
should
the war.
equalize. They have.
Who cares who should win the war? I mean, I'm like, I'm rolling my eyes, and I just want to shoot myself sometimes when she asks questions like that. The media is so insistent, do you want Russia to win or you want Ukraine to win? I don't. Who cares? Just end the war so we don't have to worry about being about nuclear annihilation every single day. Every single day we wake up. Jesus Christ.
Plenty of money. They should equalize. I got with NATO.
But I'm
when I
asking
sat
you
down,
about
I got
Ukraine
them
right
to
now,
put up
Mr.
hundreds
President.
of billions of dollars that they weren't paying under Obama and Bush and
Obama
all of these other
and Bush.
presidents. That's why they're able to help them fight the war because of the money I got. But I
let's
want
talk about
Europe.
what's happening in Ukraine,
Excuse me.
Mr.
I want
President.
Europe to put up more money.
More
because
interruptions.
They're laughing at us. They think we're a bunch of jerks. We're spending $170 billion for faraway land, and they're right next door to that land, and they're in for 20. I don't think so.
When it comes to what's happening there, when you were in office, you said that you respected President Putin. Do
Yeah, I
you
do.
still respect him today?
He made a tremendous mistake. He was a smart guy, you know. I remember I said he was smart, she was smart. They
What
said
was his
he
mistake?
said President Xi of China, right, is smart. Okay, 1.5 billion people. He's the ruler of 1.5 billion people. He said, yeah, he's a smart guy. How dare he say he's smart? Of course he's smart. They want you to say he's a stupid person. Okay, he's not a stupid person. He's very smart. He's very cunning. And Putin made a bad mistake, in my opinion.
What was his mistake?
His mistake was going in. He would have never gone in if I was president. We used to talk about it there.
Well, he isn't wrong. I'm sure. It's ridiculous. But I'm sure that he's wrong. He isn't wrong, Oops. The hell? Oh, okay. I got it. Yeah, I mean, he isn't wrong. I mean, I don't think Putin would have gone in if Trump was president because there's no way that the insistence of Ukraine joining NATO would have popped up because Trump would have never pushed for it. Meanwhile, Biden's pushing for it, and that's what directly led to the invasion. That was the final straw. Like, okay, if Ukraine joins NATO, that means there's going to be more weapons at Russia's border, or bombs, or missiles, or whatever. But since that couldn't happen, that was a red line for Vladimir Putin. He had to invade. So there you go. That's why the war happened. If Trump was reelected, I don't see how that war ends up popping off the way it did. Because Trump wouldn't. I don't think the Trump administration would have pushed Ukraine to join NATO. It's a little bit left to this one.
Do you believe that he is a war criminal?
Another ridiculous question. Do you think he's a war criminal? It's like I don't. Do you really buy? I mean, What was the charges? I think the charges was he's allegedly kidnapping children from Ukraine and resettling them in Russia, even though that's more of a humanitarian thing because Ukrainian children were dying and that dying, as Trump put it, in the bombing. So they decided to take Ukrainian children into Russia and resettle them in Russia, which is there's nothing. In fact, that might be commendable. Instead, the ICC. Let me try it again. Instead, filed charges against him for being a war criminal. Now he can't leave. He can't go to most countries, or else he'll be. Why am I forgetting when he'll be sent to the Hague and charged with multiple crimes. Do you know? Do you know that the International Criminal Court also has charges against Bush and Cheney for war crimes? And there's a law that was passed here in the United States. Why am I don't know. I don't remember the exact name of the law, but there's a law, the Hague Retrieval Act, something like that, which allows the U.S. If the Hague or the ICC ever arrests any American citizen for war crimes, the U.S. military is allowed to invade the Hague and take the American citizen out of there and bring him back to the United States. That's literally a law that's on the books right now in the federal law. So we have no respect for the International Criminal Court. We'll do, oh yeah, if you fucking arrest one of us, we'll invade we'll invade the Hague. We'll take our American back and then bring him back to the U.S. so he doesn't face charges. Imagine if Russia or China had similar laws in their books. How do you think the United States would react to that? You see the hypocrisy there? They don't give a shit about. They really don't give a shit about, law and order as we claim to. It's one rule for it's one set of rules for us, one set of rules for everybody else. So the level of hypocrisy there is just fascinating to me. Yeah, that's literally. I know I'm pretty sure it's called the Hague Retrieval Act, where the U.S. military is by U.S. law allowed to invade the Hague, take our citizen back, and then bring him back to the United States using force, basically. If any local people stop them, they get to be shot and killed legally. We take our citizens back and bring them back to the United States, and there's nothing they can do about it, essentially. Which is why Americans don't ever face war, even though there are charges filed, but the ICC never makes any effort to bring these people in for that reason. So, and the other reason is the U.S. isn't a part of the ICC, I believe. I mean, we've never signed on to it, but yeah, I mean, now all of a sudden, U.S. like what? The International Criminal Court says Putin is a war criminal, so of course he is, of course he is. Even though we're not a part of the ICC, we have nothing to do with it, we have no respect for it. But because they charge Putin with alleged war crimes, that's why now we respect the ICC because they're going after our enemies, they're not going after Americans. As long as they're after Americans, they're good. They can do whatever they want. ICC mostly goes after like African war criminals and stuff, so that's how they maintain their credibility. But it's just a joke for the most part. The ICC. Let me finish this clip though. I keep rambling on about other stuff.
Do you believe that Putin is a war criminal? He's
Stupid
responsible for the
question.
deaths of thousands of Ukrainians, men and women
it's
and
something.
By that logic, that means every U.S. president post Carter, or even Carter himself, is a war criminal. Because hundreds of thousands of people have died in Ukraine. So isn't Putin a war criminal? No. But that would mean every U.S. president in my lifetime is a war criminal. Just by that logic. That's not my logic. That's her logic. That means every U.S. president post Reagan, even Jimmy Carter, Reagan, Bush Sr., Clinton, Bush Jr., W., Obama, Trump, and now Biden. Every U.S. president in my lifetime is a war criminal. By that logic that she used there. Well, hundreds of thousands of people have died in Putin's war. And what about them? Isn't he a war criminal? No, he's not. I mean, allegedly. No, by that logic, that means every U.S. president is a war criminal, especially in my lifetime. So she wouldn't say that. So by that logic, that means Putin isn't a war criminal.
Something that should not be discussed now. It should be discussed later. Because right now we have to get a war. If you say he's a war criminal, it's going to be a lot tougher to make a deal to get this thing stopped. Because if he's going to be a war criminal where people are going to go and grab him and execute him, he's going to fight a lot harder than he's fighting, under the other circumstance. That's something to be.
Trump's 100% right. He's 100% right. he sounds like the adult in the room, and this reporter sounds like the child, even though allegedly Trump is this evil, is this major evil, and we have to do everything he can to make sure he's not president again because he hates democracy. Isn't democracy the most important thing, guys? Even though we have no respect for democracy because, we don't do what people actually want. But we're going to pretend we're going to virtue signal now and pretend we all love democracy. We have to protect our democracy. This interview is insult to our collective intelligence. Well, I mean, Trump looks more intelligent than she does there, and throughout this town hall. I mean, there's multiple clips of Trump running circles around her. And then CNN has the nerve to say, well, she did a good job challenging Trump. No, she didn't. She was ridiculous. Her challenges were silly, they were childish, and Trump looked like the adult in the room running circles around her. And again, here we go again. He's running circles around her. It's embarrassing for her. Isn't it honestly embarrassing for CNN? They chose her too. Because apparently she worked at the Daily Caller, which is Tucker Carlson's old outlet. And, that's why they thought, well, I mean, she's right wing, just like Trump is. So the audience, the Republican audience will like her. No, I mean, they hated her. I mean, you should look at Twitter. They're shitting all over her for how terrible she was. And, so now she isn't that same Republican she was when she worked for Tucker Carlson.
To be discussed at a later date.
Isn't
right
it
now,
important
we
to
want
call
to
it
get
what
that
it
war
is?
settled. And I'm not talking about the money either. I'm talking about all the.
Isn't it important to call out what it is? No. Who cares? That's like your opinion, man. Like in that movie, The Big Lebowski. But that's not your opinion. Like, who cares? Who cares? I mean, it's by that logic. If Putin calls Biden a war criminal, then he is a war criminal. You have to call it out, right? I mean, no. Who cares? I mean, that can be figured out after the war. Right now, as Trump's absolutely right. Right now, what needs to be done is to get peace. Get a peace deal done. Stop this goddamn war before we all die because of nuclear annihilation. And then after that, you want to talk about whether he's a war criminal, or if you want to jack yourself off about that, go ahead. I don't care, but let's get this war over first. Trump's 100% right again here in this clip.
Lives that are being. The number of people being killed in that war is far greater than you're hearing. When they blow up a city and those buildings come pouring down and they say 2 people were injured, no. Hundreds and thousands of people are being killed. And we have to get that war settled.
Settled. Well, again, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. I mean, it's like the most important thing, ending the war first. Then, if you want to jack yourself off later and figure out whether he's a war criminal or not, go right ahead. I don't give a shit because you're not going to get him. What you think? You think the Russians going to just hand them over? Like, oh yeah, here, you can take Vladimir Putin and charge him with all these crimes or whatever, and virtue signal about how important it is to hold the powerful accountable or whatever they want to do. They're not going to hand them over. They're going to go fuck yourselves. That's basically in that Russian accent, of course. I can't do a Russian accent, so. But yeah, this is all just virtue signaling and just jacking themselves off for no reason. All right, so now let's get to this clip. Why President Trump believes the U.S. should default if the White House doesn't agree to spending cuts.
As you know,
All right, so there's a moment here which is Trump's hypocrisy exposed here. I'm not sure that this clip shows it, where he talks about how, oh well, she asked, oh well, when you were president, that means, but you didn't, you were against using the debt limit. Oh, no. Let me try again. There was a question she asked where it's like, oh, you were against using the debt ceiling as a negotiating tool when you were president, and now you're in favor of it. Trump, like, brutally honest, just exposes his own hypocrisy there. Trump certainly knows about not paying his bills. Yeah, I mean, and I'm going to get to the E.J. Carroll lawsuit in a minute, E. Jean Carroll lawsuit in a minute, where that's like it's a big deal that Trump was convicted of sexual abuse and defaming her character, even though she's a ridiculous person. If you see actually what she's about, Trump was right. She is a whack job and a ridiculous person, but when there's an hypocrisy there because he's like, Well, I was president when I said that, and now that I'm not president, it's okay to use debt ceiling as negotiating tool. So, but the way he just admits to it is like, yeah, I'm a hypocrite. What are you going to do about it? You know, it's just hilarious. I think it's this clip. Let's see.
The U.S. right now could be just 3 weeks away from defaulting on its debt. That could mean millions of jobs lost, people not getting their Social Security payments. People believe it would put the U.S. economy into a recession. On that topic, I want to bring in Marta Cervella, a student here at St. Anselm. She is an undeclared voter who did not vote in 2020. Marta, what's your question?
Hi, Mr. President.
Hi, thank you.
So my question is, what do you think about the United States' current debt situation, and how can we move forward?
Such an important question. So we're at $33 trillion, a number that nobody ever thought possible. When we had our economy rocking and rolling just prior to COVID coming in, like literally, we were making a fortune. And oil, we were going to make so much money from oil, we were going to start paying off debt.
Who the moderator, anchor, whatever? Kind of. I mean, I could see her looking like Crystal Ball. She has some similarities. She's just as stupid as Crystal Ball, but that's so. There's no difference between her and Crystal Ball in that case.
But then with COVID coming in, we had to do other things. We had to keep this country alive because it was so serious. But we have to get the country back. We have to lower energy prices. We have to lower interest rates. Interest rates are through the roof. Energy has to come down. It all has to come down, and we have to start paying off debt. But when we have a debt limit, and they use that very seriously to me. They came in, Schumer came in with Nancy Pelosi, and they were using it. We'll violate it, we'll do whatever. They talked a whole lot different than they do right now. I say to the Republicans out there, congressmen, senators, if they don't give you massive cuts, you're going to have to do a default.
Yeah.
And I don't believe they're going
Yeah,
to.
I remember. I don't think I'll ever marry Crystal Ball, but if you remember, Kyle Kalinske called her stupid about 10 years ago in an old clip, which has now become infamous. He called her like, Crystal Ball, she's so stupid, man. She's so stupid. Difference is, I'm never going to marry the bitch. He did. And now he's stuck with raising all her brats. So, congratulations, Kyle. Hope you enjoy that marriage. He'll enjoy the money, but he's not going to enjoy raising those brats that aren't his. Good luck with that. He's going to need it.
Do a default because I think the Democrats will absolutely cave because you don't want to have that happen.
Well, he's right. The Democrats will cave because they don't want to be, because their donors, the Wall Street donors, don't want the debt seal, don't want to default. So the Democrats will cave pretty much anything Republicans want. So that he's definitely right there.
But it's better than what we're doing right now because we're spending money like drunken sailors.
So just to be clear, Mr. President, you think the U.S. should default?
This is the part what I was talking about.
The White House does not agree to the spending cuts Republicans are demanding.
You might as well do it now because you'll do it later. Because we have to save this country. Our country is dying. Our country is being destroyed by stupid people, by very stupid people.
You once said that using the debt ceiling as a negotiating wedge just could not happen. You said that when you were in the Oval Office.
I was president.
So why is it different now that you're out of office?
Because now
I'm president. Look at that. Look at that. Usually you would get mad at that type of blatant hypocrisy, but it's just hilarious, how he just admits to it. Like, well, I mean, at the time I was president, but now I'm not president, so it's okay to use the debt ceiling as a negotiating tool. That hypocrisy is it's so blatant that it's funny. I when I first heard that clip, I laughed too because his hypocrisy is so blatant. Look at that smirk, like he does this is like. I'm not president. And that smirk, it's like he knows he's being hypocritical, but he doesn't bother him. He's like, yeah, I'm a hypocrite, and what you gonna do about it? Not a damn thing. So I'm gonna continue being a hypocrite. It's just so hilarious that like, let me go back. That's so funny.
Just could not happen. You said that when you were in the Oval Office.
I was president.
So why is it different now that you're out of office?
Because now
I'm not president. That's such blatant hypocrisy.
The U.S. defaulting would be massively consequential for everyone in this room, for all of you.
Well, you don't know that. I mean, Trump again is like, well, you don't know how consequential it'll be. I mean, yeah.
No, it's psychological. It's really psychological more than anything else. and it could be very bad. It could be maybe nothing. Maybe you have a bad week or a bad day. But look, you have to cut your costs. We're spending $7 trillion on, much of it on nonsense. $7 trillion on nonsense.
We've got
and
another
I actually
question
said,
from a voter tonight.
get all of that money that was wasted, and frankly, the Senate should have never approved it. Get all that money that was wasted, and if they don't get rid of that, you'll have to default. Okay?
Mr. President, we've got another voter here tonight.
And by the way, you're going to default eventually anyway, but it's going to be much messier. I don't think you'll have to default. I think if the Republicans hold strong and they say we want let's say we want $5 trillion off, I really think the Democrats have no choice but to do it. And if I win, they're going to be doing the same thing to me in 2 years. I guarantee you that.
Yeah. I mean, this is blatant hypocrisy. Yeah, you might also be openly hypocritical. Yeah, it's so blatant that it's funny. It's like, wait, no, politicians are not that blatantly hypocritical usually. I mean, they'll cover it up in a way that it isn't that bad. But Trump is just blatantly hypocritical. Like, oh, yeah, I'm not president now, so the Republicans are allowed to use the debt ceiling as a negotiating tool. When I'm president, don't you dare use that as a negotiating tool. It's just blatant hypocrisy, and it's not even covered up by anything either, by flowery rhetoric. All right, now let me get to the E. Jean Carroll nonsense. Yeah, that is nonsense. If I can find the clip, it'd be nice. Let's see. Now, E. Jean Carroll. I believe that's how it's spelled. Where is it? Trump reacts to. No, where is it? It's a town hall thing. Okay. I think this.
What do you say to voters
Okay,
who
here
say
we go. CBC Radio Canada is a Canadian public broadcast service. Well, they have the clip, so I'm just going to play it here. TYT also had the clip, but I'm not going to play TYT stuff and give them a view, so fuck them. I'm just going to use the Canadian clip of this. Dems would love to crush social spending and make unwashed. Yeah. They're going to use. I'm telling you, they're going to use Republicans and this debt ceiling thing as an excuse to cut um to cut social spending. They already want to cut it. They already cut it to the bone as it is, social spending, and now with this debt ceiling crisis, which has been created, it's manufactured. It's not a real crisis. It's manufactured because when Republicans are in charge, they always raise the debt ceiling, no matter what. So this is an issue. When the Democrats president, all of a sudden it's an issue because Republicans, they use it as a negotiating tool. Democrats don't. Democrats could do it and force Republicans into more social spending, but the Republicans are crazy enough to actually not do it and then destroy the economy and just ruin the country basically. Because so that's why Democrats don't want to play chicken with that. Meanwhile, Republicans do play chicken with it all the time, and they always get what they want because Democrats are weak and pathetic, and they want these cuts anyway. So it was like, yeah, let's just cut the shit. Excuse me. All right, so E. Jean Carroll won her lawsuit against Trump for, let me actually do that. There you go. E. Jean Carroll actually last week, I think it was, won a jury verdict for $5 million. So I think the breakdown is $2.5 million for the sexual abuse, because initially Trump was charged with rape, but he didn't. But the jury, not even the jury, can convict him of rape. They convicted him of sexual abuse instead, and $2.5 million for defaming her. Again, I do this because I don't know where the defaming came in, neither the sexual abuse. Her story is just out there. She also, on Anderson Cooper, said that rape was sexy, which was weird. She's just a weird person and makes weird comments, so I don't know why Trump would even touch her, but that's just me. But nonetheless, let's get to the point. Do you know that in New York, the statute of limitations for these type of lawsuits are 5 to 7 years? And allegedly, this happened in the mid 1990s. It's 25 years. It's too late. You know what the Democrats did? They literally passed a law in New York, pushed by E. Jean Carroll and her attorney. The Albany passed a law basically saying that they're waiving the statute of limitations for a year, just a year. They're waiving it just for a year, in order for sexual assault victims to sue their alleged their perpetrators, alleged perpetrators. As soon as I think it was day after Thanksgiving when the law came into effect, and as soon as the law came into effect, E. Jean Carroll's attorney filed this lawsuit against Trump. The day after Thanksgiving, it was. I was like, so this is a Democratic Party hit job. That's what this was. The party did this on purpose, knowing that E. Jean Carroll would file this lawsuit. So this is all a giant conspiracy to get Trump. Again, this isn't the first. This isn't the first time this happening in New York. Again, Alvin Bragg, the DA of Brooklyn, he's going after Manhattan. Let me try it again. He's going after Trump for dubious reasons too. So it's like they're making Trump into a martyr, into a victim. And to me, that's a huge political mistake. It's like they're making him into a martyr and a victim. So even a lot of Americans who go like, I hate Trump, but the Democrats are fucking him over big time. I'm gonna support and vote for him. Just based off that, and it's a terrible mistake. They're gonna make him president again. They're gonna hand him the election. Oh, here, Biden's barely functional as it is. So it's like, let's hand Trump the election. Let's all fundraise off of Trump, like it did in his first term. Let's all fundraise off him. Let's make money off of him. Let's all enrich ourselves, including the hacks, like the Brooklyn Dads of the world and the Harry Sizzlers, that kid, and his buddy, I forget his name too. I know his name is Harry Sizzler. I call him Harry Sizzler because it sounds funnier, and it might be corny, but at the same time to me it's funny, so I call him Harry Sizzler. And his buddy and the other kid recently popped up, the black kid, who it sounds like he's on melatonin. He talks like this, and Trump is so dangerous, and I'm gonna fall asleep, and I forget his name too. You follow me on Twitter. I tweeted about him. That black kid, he's on melatonin. He's about to fall asleep any second in that video. Well, I can't find it right now, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I mean, they're all going to make tens of millions of dollars off of Trump presidency. So are the Young Turks, by the way. They're going to go super anti-Trump now during this election, and if he wins, 4 years of money-making operation of Trump, anti-Trump, 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 anti-Trump stories. Same thing with Howard Kalinske. Same thing, Crystal Ball. Same thing with all these professional left YouTube channels. They secretly want Trump to be president so they can go back to the views, go back to making that money, go back to the ad revenue that they lost as soon as Biden was elected. So it's all one big conspiracy theory. Again, with E. Jean Carroll, her attorney, the New York legislature, the governor. I mean, they're all going after Trump in ridiculous ways. And this lawsuit just is ridiculous. It's absurd. In this clip, though, let me get to the clip now because what was the law called? The law was called the Adult Survivor Act. That's what it was called. It might as well called it the E. Jean Carroll Act and just admit it. It's like, yeah, we want E. Jean Carroll to sue Trump, and we want to have Trump convicted of sexual abuse, even though it's in civil court. It's not really in criminal court, so. Convicted in a civil court. Who cares? I just spit all over the place. Who cares? I mean, it's like, it's meaningless. It's a civil court. And I'm going to explain why real quick. There's two standards of evidence. In criminal court, as maybe you don't know, but if you do, it's called, I'm blanking on it. What the fuck? Beyond a reasonable doubt. So, you have to be basically 100% sure that person's guilty in criminal court. In civil court, it's a preponderance of the evidence. So basically, what that means is more likely than not. Did he more likely do it or didn't he do it? So it's like 51-49 basically. If you're 51% sure he did do it, then you convict him. If not, then you don't. It's the standard is so much lower that that's why having Trump convicted in civil court and then going on television and virtue signaling about how he was convicted of sexual assault or abuse, and which is why he can't be president again, even though Joe Biden was been tongue tied myself. Even though Joe Biden was convicted, not convicted, but he was accused of sexual assault by Tara Reid. But let's ignore that. I mean that. Biden's a good guy. He's a great president. He's our Lord and Savior for Democrats. Meanwhile, Trump is evil, and he's been accused. He's been convicted of sexual abuse. I keep spitting all over the place. What the fuck? And and he's this terrible guy. Okay, hypocrisy there. TYT changing this middle-aged moderates. Yeah, TYT is interestingly going to the right, or at least to the center, because I've noticed that a lot of people notice that in their coverage. They're not as far left as they were a few years ago. Maybe that Katzenberg money has something to do with it, but I mean, they seem to be heading more in the center. They're trying to be centrist, which again, they're still liars, they're still hypocrites, they're still all this other stuff, but they're not going to be as far left as it used to be. Okay, I don't know how that matters much, but let's now get to this clip because it's hilarious how Trump just smears E. Jean Carroll again, even though she is kind of crazy and she is a whack job. I mean, if you see clips of her, I mean, it's like, the fuck is wrong with that bitch? But let's just go. Let's just actually watch this.
What do you say to voters who say it disqualifies you from being president?
Well, there aren't too many of them because my poll numbers just came out. They went up.
Damn, got her right there again. Her poll number, that is true. Trump's poll numbers did go up, or remained around 50% right after the conviction. So, yep.
Okay.
But for E. Jean Carroll, who won her case against Trump, the verdict was worth it for all women.
There's a sort of
Look at that virtue signaling. The verdict was worth it for all women. It was a Democratic Party hit job, which now they could use all the partisan hacks on Twitter and on TikTok and all over social media, get to use against Trump to attack him on the internet. It's like he was convicted of sexual abuse. And meanwhile, the statute of limitations passed 20 years ago. But they passed the Adult Survivors Act, which means which allowed E. Jean Carroll to sue Trump, even though there's nearly 25 years has passed and there's no evidence. But the jury somehow still convicted Trump. It was obviously a hit job, which is why Trump didn't provide a defense. He wasn't even there most of the trial. So it was just a show trial, a waste of time, and everybody's jacking themselves off, talking about how Trump's he's a sexual abuser. Yeah, y'all, all you can go fuck yourselves. And how about that?
a feeling of victory that at last somebody has held him accountable in a courtroom.
Former President Donald Trump.
Despite the timing, CNN had already taken a lot of blowback for staging a live town hall with Trump answering to an audience of Republican and independent voters.
I wouldn't interview a man who has used live interviews to incite violence.
Here comes this fucking guy to virtue signal. This is not the clip I was looking for. I'm still gonna play it, but Mehdi Hassan constantly virtue signaling like, I wouldn't interview a man who uses his platform for violence and to promote violence, and even though I have no evidence for that, but I'm still gonna say it because I work at MSNBC. Actually, isn't his show on Peacock? It's not even on MSNBC. It's on Peacock. Even though I'm on Peacock and I work for Comcast, and Comcast hate Trump, so I'm going to virtue signal about how I wouldn't interview him. And now I'm going to go fucking myself because I'm a partisan hack and I hate Republicans. Blah 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 blah.
violence and tell lies, who has in the past encouraged violence against
And
CNN.
he's a liar. He's a liar. Even though every goddamn politician I ever interview is a goddamn liar. But let me keep going because, again, I'm a partisan hack and I'm so pathetic. My show's on Peacock,
in itself.
not MSNBC.
There's never been a greater dereliction of duty.
Republican Liz Cheney released a new ad warning of normalizing Trump as an ordinary candidate.
Donald Trump is a risk.
Oh God! He's not a normal candidate because he incited they say insurrection. It was a riot, which he didn't incite. It's just so mind-numbingly fucking stupid. It's like I'm losing my head, with all this stupidity. It's just only in Washington. Only in Washington, this stuff is in New York. This stuff, gets over, and this stuff is just, oh God, I can't. Let me see if I can get this clip without banging my head against my wall.
America can never take again.
Trump had refused interviews with CNN for 7 years and had furiously fanned a nasty feud.
I love this, the way he just humiliated Jim Acosta over and over and over again, and the rest of the press defended him. It's not fair. But then he attacked Jim Acosta, even though Jim Acosta, being a partisan hack during most of his appearances in the White House, he's supposed to be a journalist, but he was a hack instead. And CNN, right after Trump left office, they gave him his own show, an opinion show. Is it still? I don't know if it's still on the air or not because I don't watch CNN. But I do remember hearing the announcement. Hey guys, Jim Acosta got his own show. And I forget what it was called. It doesn't really matter. I don't think the show's on the air anymore. But it was so embarrassing that he had to take it off the air because I don't think it's still on the air. Unless I'm wrong, it's still on the air. But I don't watch CNN, so I couldn't give a shit.
You report fake news, which CNN does.
Fake news.
You are the enemy of the people.
You are the enemy.
CNN is fake news. I don't take questions from CNN. John Roberts of Fox. Let's go to a real network.
But that was then. Trump has now soured on his former Fox News family.
Donald Trump does not like Fox News. That's where you start.
Is that Bill O'Reilly? Holy crap. He's still alive? Is that Bill O'Reilly? Jesus Christ. I mean, I thought he was dead. I know he left Fox News a few years ago. He got fired or whatever, but holy crap. I mean, I can't believe he's still around.
He feels they betrayed him.
At the same time, new leadership at CNN is trying to pull the news network towards the middle of the political spectrum.
When we do politics, we need to represent both sides. I think it's important for America.
So Trump seized the moment, still boasting he's a ratings maker.
CNN is rightfully desperate to get those fantastic Trump ratings back. They made me a deal I couldn't refuse.
Why should Americans put you back in the White House?
That was a rigged election, and it's a shame that we had to go through it. It's very bad for our country.
It was.
La la la. That's not the clip I was looking for. Shit. I thought they'd actually play the whole thing. Where is it? If I can find it. That's not it. That's just the conviction. 5 notable moments. Oh, I'm gonna play AOC's meltdown too on MSNBC. So, but I'm looking for that clip, the E. Jean Carroll clip. Here it is. I think. No, that's the Damn, where is it? I may have to play the Young Turks version because they do have the whole clip, and I can't find it. Shit.
All right, now let me.
I probably should have liked it, to be fair, but I lost it. So la la la. I don't want to see Jenk's ugly head. Jesus, why that why that insane close up of Jenk's head? Did you that close up is just insane. He was like this. He was like fucking like this. Hey, let me show you the worst moment of debate, guys. Let me show you the worst. He's like that. I'm like, what the fuck? Why is it? Why the insane close up of Jenk's head? It makes his head look like he's like this. Hold on. He's like, hey guys, let me show you the worst part of the worst part of the town hall, the biggest lies and all. He's like, it's like that. It's like I have a big ass head too. Look, most of my head covers the screen. That's ridiculous. All right, so now let's get to what Trump actually said.
Never met this woman. I never saw this woman. This woman said, I met her at the front door of Bergdorf Goodman, which I rarely go into other than.
What is Bergdorf Goodman, by the way? Is that some kind of elitist store, where rich people shop for their food? But I'd never heard of it. Bergdorf Goodman. Here it is. Bergdorf Goodman Inc. is a luxury department store based on Fifth Avenue in Midtown Manhattan. This company was founded by Herman Bergdorf and later owned and managed by Edwin Goodman. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so basically it's a rich person's Walmart. That's what I'm understanding what this is. Basically, this is a rich asshole's Walmart. Really, you're okay. Yeah, because I never even heard of Bergdorf Goodman. I mean, unless, maybe because I'm not a rich asshole, but I don't live in Manhattan either. But I live like an hour away from Manhattan, but right across from Trump Tower. Yeah, I mean, Trump says it's right across from Trump Tower, which I've been there. But I walked past Trump Tower years ago, and I was like, oh, that's Trump Tower. This is when he was doing Apprentice, I think, like 10 or 15 years ago. I was in New York for, I think it was, what was it? It was some kind of television taping. And I was in the audience. Why am I forgetting? It was it was 10 or 15 years ago. It was, the People's Court. That's what it was. I went to a television taping from the People's Court. And it's like 10 or 15 years ago. And I walked past Trump Tower. And the studio is a really small studio, like, it was down. It felt like it was down like a side alley or something. It was weird, the People's Court Studio. It was like, yeah, I couldn't even find it at first. It's like, oh, here it is. Okay, and they barely let me in, but I digress from that though.
For a couple of charities, I met her in the front door. She was about 60 years old, and this is like 22, 23 years ago. I met her in the front door of Bergdorf Goodman. I was immediately attracted to her, and she was immediately attracted to me. And we had this great chemistry. We're walking into a crowded department store. We had this great chemistry, and a few minutes later, we end up in a dressing room of Bergdorf Goodman, right near the cash register. And then she found out there were locks on the door. So she said, I found one that was open. She found one. She learned this at trial. She found one that was open. What kind of a woman meets somebody and brings them up, and within minutes you're playing hanky-panky in a dressing room? Okay? I don't know if she was
hanky-panky in the dressing room.
Was married then or not? John Johnson. I feel sorry for you, John Johnson.
Mr. President,
no, but think of it. Think of it.
I know you're recounting what she said, but Mr. President.
But let me just, if I could, because you asked the question.
This was a
just
jury,
so you understand,
though.
if I was walking in at the bar, because I was very famous then, and I owned the Plaza Hotel.
This is when they get to say, oh, this is a jury that convicted you, except it's civil court, not criminal court. So who cares? It's meaningless. And by the way, Trump is appealing the verdict, so she's not going to get that money for years, if ever. Even if the appeal they uphold the $5 million. Good luck getting Trump to pay that money. So E. Jean Carroll's lawyer, good luck trying to collect that money from Trump. It isn't happening.
Hotel right next door, and I own buildings around it. I'm not going into a dressing room of a crowded department store. Then I say, if she was being raped, and by the way, they said she wasn't raped. Okay, that was her charge. It wasn't.
They found that you sexually abused her.
No, what? Say what they did. They said he didn't rape her. And
they didn't convict him of rape. So they convicted him of sexual abuse. Even when the trial was rigged against Trump, it was super obvious that they were going to convict him no matter what. They still couldn't find him guilty of rape. That's how little evidence there was of this. They found him guilty of sexual abuse, which is like a lesser standard, which I don't know what that means. I mean, sexual abuse, is it inappropriate touching? It's just, an absurd thing.
I didn't do anything else either. You know what? Because I have no idea who the hell she is.
But Mr. President,
I don't know who this woman is. Her dog or her cat was named Vagina. The judge would...
Vagina. Her dog's name was Vagina. Like, who names... If that's true, who names their dog Vagina? I mean, come on. It's just beyond ridiculous if it's true. It's like naming your dog shit. I mean, it's just absurd, Even if that's true, I mean that it shows to her mental psyche.
Weren't allowed to put that in. All of these things but with her, they can put in anything.
All right, guys, I'm telling you, I think.
La la la. So that's that. I mean that's Trump basically. He said, I'm not sure that's a complete clip or not. I think it was it because I would have to find it. The rest of this video is just jank virtue signaling. I really don't feel like hearing virtue signal. I'm talking about how terrible Trump is and what a terrible person he is, and how and the audience laughing. I mean, that's probably the worst moment I've ever seen because I'm so much morally superior than everybody else. Even though Cenk would write horrible misogynistic things about women, but now he's like a good guy. Now he's a Republican, so now he gets a virtue signal and talking about how morally superior he is to Trump. Morally superior he is to Trump in the audience who laughed at that. So finger penetration, okay, that's sexual abuse, but yeah, I mean it's silly. Do we want to see Cenk virtue signal? Because part of me is like, nah, I don't. But at the same time, it's like it's just hilarious how Cenk just virtue signals, even though he also wrote horrible things about women, and he also was caught doing and saying racist shit. But that's it's like a minute, so I think I can take it.
I think that is more damning of the crowd than it is of Trump. I mean, look, even if you think Donald Trump didn't do it, and that he doesn't know her, and you believe her because this is the one time he's telling the truth. Okay, all right, but even in that scenario, isn't the correct way to say this? Look, I don't know what happened to her. I don't know why she's saying this. I didn't do anything. Obviously, it's a horrible situation, and I feel terrible for this even coming up and for me being blamed for it. If it happened, it would be the most horrific thing, and I would apologize. But it didn't happen, and you could say it in that.
I can't get over how the insane close up of his head. I got a big ass head too, and I wouldn't do this to you guys. It's like, whoa, what the fuck, man? What's with the insane close up? He's like this. It's like an insane close up. It's like I can't get over how ridiculous that close up is of his big ass head.
That way, where it's, by the way, probably more believable if you said it that way, and it shows some degree of sympathy. Instead, he makes fun of her.
That woman that doesn't deserve sympathy, Cenk. She's a crazy psycho, like Trump said. I mean, have you seen some of her interviews and where she lives? I mean, holy shit! It's like, what the fuck's wrong with this woman? So, yeah, let's keep going because he virtue signals some more.
I mean, it's just outrageous what he said, and then he smears her afterwards. It's just atrocious. And meanwhile, the crowd
smears her. He smears her afterwards, and it's atrocious. Let me keep virtue signaling, so the anti-Trump crowd gives you more money because I'm desperate for money, guys. I'm surprised he didn't plug his 3 fundraisers, and he didn't plug the TYT memberships on his website. Give me more money, guys. I mean, see, I'm virtue signaling. I hate Trump just as much as you do.
Laughing and whooping and hollering and having a good old time. Oh, the jury found him guilty of sexual abuse. It's a civil trial, not a criminal trial. He's not going to jail or anything. But the jury thinks he definitely did it. And he's like, what? It's not rape. Like,
no, Cenk is lying by omission there. Because, shit, I just dropped my phone. Oh well. Cenk's lying by omission there because he's not telling his audience that a civil court, the standard of evidence is much lower than a criminal court. So he's just lying there. He's just lying by omission. He's like, to be fair, he did admit, well, it's a civil case, not a criminal one, so he's not going to jail. But still, let me hide the fact that the standard of evidence is much, much lower than in a criminal court or a criminal case. So, yeah, let me lie to my audience by omission because they're too stupid. They can't tell a difference, or they can't tell that. Yeah,
it's like almost like a evil sitcom. Man, in the old days, if a jury found you liable for sexual abuse, that would have ended your political career. Now it's a good punchline in a Republican town hall crowd. And that is unfortunately very telling of the Republican Party today, and it is quite disgusting.
And that's the end of the virtue signaling. But holy crap, the close up, he's like this. He's like this. Literally, his entire head is covering the screen. And I'm like, when I first saw the video, I was like, holy fuck, why is it so close? He's still like this the entire video. It's like, I don't know who did the video or who moved the camera, but holy crap. I mean, I'm not sure somebody was trolling him and, did an insane close up of his face. That could have been it. And he didn't look, so it's like, let me do this and let me tell you why Trump is so horrible. Let me virtue signal the whole time. My back. I shouldn't have done that. But, let's get to everyone's favorite congresswoman, if I can find it, because there's so many clips here. Here we go. It's 11 minutes. I'm probably not going to play the whole thing, but
tonight,
let's get to virtue signaling, the master of it, Alejandra. What's her name? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. About to call her Alexandra or Alejandra for some reason. When will we hear about all the Epstein buddies and their activity? Never, because the media will cover it up. The media's already been covering it up, so they won't talk about it. It'll probably take of course, it'll take online media to talk about it eventually, whenever it does come out. Yeah, AOC is the definition of authoritarian left. I mean, she's pro-censorship. She's, she virtue signals about how horrible everything is and how evil Trump is, even though Trump is your standard lying politician. But, she's like the representative and the definition of authoritarian left in this country. And what would happen if somebody like her takes power or becomes president? God forbid. I mean, all we have is cancel culture, virtue signaling, grandstanding, whining and complaining when something goes wrong, censorship, more censorship than ever. So that's all we'll get from someone like AOC ever becoming president. I mean, I'll tell you, she won't ever become president. Look at her. Nobody can stand her. She's like a whiny little girl, who constantly whines about when shit don't go her way. Instead of being an adult, and realizing that you're not going to get your way all the time. So I'm going to skip. Is this the chick that replaced Rachel Maddow at 9 o'clock? Because if that's the case, they went from Rachel Maddow to this woman. What's her name? Alex Wagner? Yeah, Alex Wagner. I mean, they went from lesbian broadcaster to a boring nondescript broadcaster. It's like, at least Rachel Maddow is somewhat entertaining in the way she tells her stories, but they were all bullshit, especially during the Russiagate days. Nothing but bullshit, nothing but lies. And that's how Rachel Maddow became multimillionaire. That's how now she's getting paid $30 million a year for a part-time job. She's not even working every day. I'm like, geez, I wish I had a part-time job paying that much. That's insane. $30 million a year to work part-time, occasionally do her show. And doesn't she shoot? So now, yeah, I think she replaced Rachel Maddow, and the ratings are shit. Understandably so, because the audience is used to Rachel Maddow, not this bitch. Well, let me skip this, because I think this is what we saw already.
They found that you sexually abused her.
What? Say what they did. They said he didn't rape her.
He didn't.
I didn't do anything else either. You know what? Because I have no idea who the hell she is.
But Mr. President, can I ask you, given your recounting your version? I don't know who, and
I tell you this.
But Mr. President,
are you ready?
Can I
swear on my children, which I'd never do. I have no idea who this woman. This is a fake story. I have no idea who the hell. She's a whack job.
You did not.
In the hours since he was found liable for sexual abuse and defamation, Trump has not missed a chance to deny any of this. He's even used the same sort of language that prompted this defamation case. He still claims he doesn't know E. Jean Carroll. He is still claiming that she is a liar, and the case against him is a witch hunt. And he did that all tonight.
Well, it's definitely a witch hunt. It's definitely a witch hunt. Witch hunt. The party, like I talked about earlier, the party purposely went after Trump and allowed E. Jean Carroll to sue him. They changed the law. I mean, that's probably the most egregious thing about this whole thing. They changed the law in order to allow this crazy woman to sue Trump over an alleged sexual abuse or assault from the mid 90s, even though statute of limitations had passed decades ago. So, yeah, so it definitely is a witch hunt. So Trump isn't wrong there.
Tonight, too, as a presidential candidate. And he did it in front of a room of Republican voters who laughed.
Yeah, I laughed too, and I'm not a Republican voter, sweetheart. So, yeah, it isn't that big of a deal that they laughed. And I laughed too, and I don't know whether more non-Republican voters laughed, but let's watch AOC virtue signal and meltdown about this.
Joining us now is Democratic New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, it's a real honor and a pleasure to have you here tonight. I'm sorry that this is what we have to be talking about. Yesterday, when that verdict was read, I think a lot of people felt like there was real progress in American society for victims of sexual assault.
How? How was there progress for American victims of sexual assault? It's a meaningless civil court verdict, which Trump is already appealing. So it's not like it's a criminal conviction. Like, oh my God, we got him. We convicted him of a felony. We got him. Now he's most likely he wouldn't go to prison. I mean, he would get some sort of deal where he's not going to prison. But we got him. He's convicted. He convicted criminally. No, it was a meaningless civil case, but Trump didn't even participate in. He presented no defense basically because it was nonsense. But then now they get to now say, oh well, now it gets a virtue signal here.
Assault. Today, listening to the howls of laughter as the former president of the United States made fun of a woman that he was found criminally liable for sexually assaulting, to howls of laughter in the room.
We're going to finish this clip, and then I'm going to probably wrap up this episode because it's 3:30 and I need to cook dinner in 30 minutes. So we'll finish this clip, and then I'll probably wrap up at that point. Oops.
Something far worse than backsliding or regression. I'm not sure what to call it. I wonder what you make of where we are as a culture.
Well,
who cares? Like, that's not up to politicians. Like, the culture is the culture. Like, asking a politician, a low-level politician like AOC, that it's like, what can she do to change it? Dick. What she'll do is virtue signal, grandstand, and whine about the culture. How dare they and laugh at them? How dare they laugh at Trump's jokes about a sexual abuse survivor? How dare they? That's basically what she'll do here.
I think even yesterday, what we saw was the profound courage and sacrifice that a survivor like E. Jean Carroll makes, and survivors across the country make, many who often go unrecognized in the courageous act of coming forward to tell their story of an assault. And I think what we saw tonight is a continued demonstration of the sacrifice that women and survivors of sexual abuse across the country of all genders experience, and the sacrifices that they make in order to come forward and challenge power. And what we also...
She didn't challenge power, sweetheart. What she did was she went to the New York legislature and asked them to change the law so she can sue Trump, and they did it because they wanted Trump sued. So they can have this hanging over his head, like, oh yeah, he was convicted of sexual abuse. You know that, right? So, whoops, sorry. So, but that means that he's a bad guy, and we're good guys, even though the entire Democratic Party is behind President Biden, who was also accused of sexual assault by Tara Reade. But let's just ignore that part because Biden, by definition, is a good guy. And now that Trump's convicted of sexual abuse, now he's the bad guy. Now we have evidence, even though it's nonsense and this case should have never been brought. And the New York legislature blatantly changed the law in order to allow this to happen. It's only for a year, by the way. After November, the original statute of limitation kicks in again. So, yeah, it's
saw tonight was the consequence of doing that. They sacrificed their anonymity, they sacrificed their safety, and
oh, thank you, Carlos. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed your banter. I mean, I appreciate you enjoying my commentary analysis too. But yeah, I'm going to wrap up in a few minutes. So let's just finish this clip, though.
Sacrifice all of this because we continue to live in a society where an overwhelming amount of structures allow this abuse to happen and find it permissible. You know, I know you said earlier that you will not comment on the platforming of
here comes the virtue signaling now by AOC.
Such atrocious disinformation, but I would.
The disinformation? What disinformation? She just asserts it like, oh, yeah, there was plenty of disinformation during Trump's town hall. Who are you to tell us about what's disinformation and what isn't? You're a politician. Stay in your lane. We'll figure out what's the truth and what's lies. You know, I mean, stay in your lane and write your little legislation which no one will pass. Do that instead of virtue signaling and pontificating to me what's the truth and what isn't.
I think it was a profoundly irresponsible decision. I don't think that I would be doing my job if I did not say that. And what we saw tonight was a series of extremely irresponsible decisions that put a sexual abuse victim at risk, that put that person at risk in front of a national audience, and I could not have disagreed with it more. It was shameful.
I think
it was shameful for CNN to broadcast an interview with the former president of the United States, very likely the next president of the United States again, and it was shameful. When Alex Wagner, the host, broadcast AOC and allow AOC on her television show, is she being shameful? Because AOC lies just as much as Trump does. There's no difference between her and Trump. Is she being shameful? No, she isn't, because AOC in her head thinks she's a good person. Meanwhile, she's just a authoritarian piece of shit. All she wants to do is censor people and grandstand and virtue signal and write meaningless legislation that nobody will ever pass. So yeah, she's just wasting our times.
I think a lot of people are going to echo those points in the coming hours and days. The behavior of the president was, which, you know, our expectations for it, I think, collectively are fairly low, but he exceeded even those low expectations. I have to ask you how you felt about and how you feel about the revisionism around January 6th. We have heard for months now.
Oh, this is infamous. This AOC's virtue signaling here is infamous. I laughed when she whined about the January 6th next. So she sounds like a little girl whining most of the time when she talks. She's 30-something years old. She's a grown woman, but she sounds like a child. Like if I had like a 5-year-old little girl, that's what that's what she would. That's what she sounds like most of the time when she talks.
Now that January 6th rioters, insurrectionists, there to steal.
They're not insurrectionists, woman. They were rioters. That's what they were. You want to call it what it is, it's rioting. It's not insurrectionists. Okay, let's say this. Let's say somehow these insurrectionists manage to take Congress and hold every senator and politician at gunpoint. What's next? What's next is the U.S. military going in there and murdering them all. That's what's next. And they will all be dead and Biden be president anyways. So that makes no sense. They were rioting on January 6th. Again, they were rioting at Capitol Hill. That's what they were doing. They were not insurrectionists, like they were going to take over the country somehow and install Trump as president again, even though he didn't win the election.
Steal an election are heroes, people who've been treated badly, people who deserve better conditions because they're being treated like, quote unquote, hell. The former president, echoed that and suggested he might pardon many, if not all of them. You survived January 6th, and I believe you said it felt like you were going to die. I think it's really important in this moment to champion the voices of victims. And as someone who was a victim that day, how does this all feel to you? How does this narrative feel to you?
You know, I made a statement about 2 weeks ago, and in that statement, I stated that January 6th was just a dress rehearsal for some of these folks. And I believe that the former president really echoed that sentiment tonight. Why else would you pardon people who perpetuated a terrorist attack on the United States Capitol, other than for reasons to support the person in a potential effort to do it again? We also saw.
Based on what? There's no basis for that. The reason why Trump's considering pardons is because they were sentenced, a lot of these people were sentenced to 4 or 5 years in prison for rioting. They were charged, and some of them were even convicted of like insurrection or treasonous activity, which is ridiculous. It was a riot. It wasn't it wasn't like an actual insurrection or betrayal of the country. It was a riot of Trump supporters on January 6th. That's what it was. That's why Trump's inclined to pardon a lot of these people, because they were convicted of ridiculous charges like treason or stuff like that, or they got years in prison. A lot of these people, when they shouldn't be in prison right now. There's probably maybe get a few months because it's rioting, but still, I mean, 6 years, 5 years, really? I mean, you're gonna destroy their lives over some rioting in the Capitol? Let's keep going.
That he refused tonight to say and commit that he would not only recognize the results of the 2020 election, but also refused outright to acknowledge any outcome and respect any outcome of a 2024 election. This is a profoundly dangerous moment.
No, it's not.
What we saw on January 6th was
Trump has the right to question any result, just like any politician. They have the right to recount. They have the right to sue. They have the right to question any election, any politician, not just Trump. So the idea that that's dangerous because he won't recognize the results of the next election is just ridiculous. It's just AOC is just, trying to scare the MSNBC audience. And, it'll work because the dwindling MSNBC audience is scared to death of Trump. So that's what she's trying to do there.
Was a dress rehearsal, because what we are seeing is that being set as an example in state legislatures across the country, in the ability to really suspend democracy in states like Tennessee and Montana, where they are following the president's example and they are committing truly unprecedented acts in attempts to either expel, censor, or generally bar members legislate.
A load of that. AOC whining about Republican censorship when that's all she does. She wants to censor Republicans. So for her to whine about, oh, well, Republicans are kicking out certain members of the legislature and blah, 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 because they want to censor their voices. And meanwhile, even though AOC wants to censor, and she was one of the politicians who called for Republicans to be kicked out of Congress over their alleged roles in January 6th. She and her rest of her squad mates were whining about that and trying to pass legislation to kick them out of Congress. It didn't work, but they tried. So this idea that AOC is upset over Democrats getting kicked out, meanwhile she wanted to kick Republicans out, just a level more hypocrisy from Sandy Cortez here.
Duly elected legislative officials from entering their legislative bodies in which they have been elected to. This is a profoundly dangerous moment to see someone deny it, for him to also be platformed in the lie that he somehow attempted to call the National Guard. I will tell you, we were barricaded in a room with the lights off, and that entire day, hearing the screams from outside our window, trying to figure out if we were going to break the glass to jump out, and if so, how would we not be recognized or killed on the street. And we knew when the sun was setting that night and the National Guard had there was no indication that help was coming. It was terrifying.
All right.
But that.
All right. Let me explain why this is a lie, or at the very least, not misinformation, but a hiding, telling half the truth and not, and lying by omission. Because yes, it's true, she was hiding in a dark room with other politicians and stuff. But here's the thing: AOC wasn't anywhere near the Capitol building. She was like 5 blocks away. Literally, her office is like 5 blocks away, 3 blocks away from the Capitol building. So she wasn't in any danger at all. She didn't come close to being in any danger. Yeah, I agree. Here's the thing about January 6th. Though. I'll say this before, and then I'll finish with AOC. Here's the thing about January 6th. The Democrats were warned, I think, by the FBI that this protest / rally is going to happen. They knew in advance. And they blame Trump for this. They claim, well, Trump didn't provide enough security. No. Democrats control both houses of Congress, so they were in charge. So they could have provided more Capitol Police if they wanted to. They didn't. What they did is they gave very minimal police presence on purpose, I think, because in order for that, they were hoping for some kind of riot so they can blame Trump and they could hopefully cancel Trump, which didn't work. They weren't able to cancel him, but they got social media companies to cancel him. All the other companies kicked them off. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, even Pin Interest kicked them off. It was like, Pin Interest, he uses that shit. But yeah, they kicked him out too for reasons, like, oh, well, he's a danger, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we do exactly what the Democratic Party tells us to do, but, yeah. But yeah, I mean, AOC is nowhere near the Capitol building that day. She was blocks away, hiding in her office. Hiding. Like, I remember her telling the story that she hid from a Capitol police officer. Why? I don't know why. I mean, he's a cop. So in theory, he's supposed to be the good guy. So AOC, should have presented herself to him. Like, yeah, I'm here. I mean, protect me. No, she stayed hidden in her office. I don't know why. But she was hiding there in her office, blocks away. That's the key word. She's blocks away from the Capitol building. You can hear the screaming and all this stuff, but she was blocks away. She wasn't like she was there inside the Capitol building. Eventually, she came out, and Katie Porter found her and a few other Congress people, and she was crying and shaking like she was in danger. She wasn't in danger, so I don't understand why. That's what really happened that day. She didn't say none of that, of course. But I don't know why I don't know why she was so scared, even though she was nowhere near the place. So those are my thoughts on that. I mean, because I do have to wrap up. It's almost 4. So, we have breaking news here, by the way. Let me read this off my phone because I don't have time to pull it up here. But this, about the FBI, going after Trump over RussiaGate. There's this is from CNN. Just in, Special Counsel John Durham finds that the FBI should not have launched an investigation into Donald Trump's campaign in Russia during the 2016 election. Oops. So the special counsel admits that, yeah, the FBI should have been investigating Trump and the Trump-Russia connection to begin with. No shit, we all knew that. But finally, it's official. I'll probably cover this more in depth tomorrow because I just wanted to give you some breaking news here before I wrapped up. I just saw this on Twitter just now, so yep. So I just retweeted it. So I'll probably cover that tomorrow stream. Tomorrow, yeah, Tuesday. Yeah, I'll definitely cover that tomorrow. So I want to thank everyone for joining me. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, 2:15 Eastern. Follow me on Twitter, on my social medias. Those links should be in the description box below, but this is my Twitter, because that's very important. Let's get rid of AOC here. There you go. And that's my Twitter. Follow both accounts. Even though my main accounts have been banned in a while, but just in case, follow both accounts. I want to thank everybody for joining me in this. And no problem. I'll be back tomorrow. It's been a month, but I figured out how to do this again. So thank you very much for joining me. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon. And have a nice, great rest of the day, everyone. Thank you.